Time for another edition of ABC24 This Week. I'm Richard Ransom. Thank you for being with us today, where we take a half hour to give the real story behind the week's big stories. Here's what we're talking about today. On this last Sunday of April, we are now just a little more than 5 months away from when Memphis will choose a new mayor. This week we had some movement over the residency controversy, which affects 3 of the candidates, and a debate featuring none of those but 5 other candidates. Will voters pick a new mayor before Memphis Shelby County Schools chooses a new superintendent? I'm not joking here. It seems like a fair question after the shenanigans this week. And state lawmakers in Nashville still can't seem to get out of their own way, getting more national headlines, from the governor's struggle to call a special session over guns, to the Tennessee Three's White House visit over guns, to the DOJ suing the state over its transgender legislation. Before we get to any of that, let me introduce my panel today. Otis Sanford is ABC24's political analyst, and Deidre Malone is the founder and CEO of the Deidre Malone Group and a political consultant. We'll get into some of that here in a bit, but first of all, I don't know, I want to give credit where credit is due here, Otis. Professor Emeritus at the U of M this week.
Quite an honor.
Congratulations.
Yes, it is. I was surprised, but gratified nonetheless.
Well deserved.
It was very humbling. Yeah.
Well deserved, sir. And I want you to show off your T-shirt here, because I think a lot of
Stay ready.
Stay ready.
Featuring Jasmine Carson,
That's
who kind of made a name for herself in her basketball expertise. Did you
We
not?
love
We
Jasmine
love
Carson.
Jasmine Carson.
Yes,
we
we
love
do.
Jasmine.
I'm
Native
suddenly an
Memphis.
And the
LSU
whole
fan.
family.
Yes, absolutely, we do.
Fantastic. Well, let's talk about the mayor's race first, folks. I don't really know what to make of where things stand. Deidre, I'll just let you just kind of, as you sit here today, knowing that the election is a little more than 5 months away, how do you assess things?
Well, I'm glad to see that the candidates are out, Richard, talking and having debates, because that's the only way that the community is going to have a good feel for the candidates that want to be the next mayor of the city of Memphis. So glad that the Daily Memphian had that one debate so we could actually see and hear and look at the mannerisms and hear what the candidates think about what the future of Memphis should look like. So excited about that. Some of those candidates need to form up their messaging and really drill down a little concerned about crime. I think we all are. But I think that their concern about the chief of police is a little misplaced, quite frankly. Mm-hmm. Some of them feel like she should be replaced, maybe. Mm-hmm. I don't think so. And I think that they need to dig a little deeper, get to know Chief Davis, and at least have a conversation with her, because, you know, they may think she needs to be replaced, but folks around this country want her.
Yeah. Well, yeah, let's get to that, because I thought it was a very interesting part of the debate that Daily Memphian, your publication, had. And I feel like it was interesting which 5 did show up. Mm-hmm. These were all serious candidates. Right. No matter how you feel about their particular stand on the issues, you were looking at 5 very serious candidates: J.W. Gibson, Michelle McKissick, Paul Young, Karen Camper, and also Frank Colvett, the city councilman. So lots of people have already proven their mettle in political office. And the focus of this debate was crime. It was. And the issue of C.J. Davis, and should she retain her job, was inevitably brought up, because that is a topic of conversation. In fact, the host there, Eric Barnes, asked participants for a show of hands on who would keep MPD Davis, Chief Davis, in her job. No candidates raised their hand. But when he asked who would certainly fire her, again, no one raised their hand. But if I'm C.J. Davis, and I have found her to be not only very forthright, and every time I've dealt with her, she doesn't mess around. Maybe she's not as accessible as we in the media would like her to be, but I think when she is, she doesn't hide. She just feels like she hires people to handle a lot of that stuff. Since the Tyree Nichols thing, and even before, I just feel like she's really stepped up. I don't know why she's suddenly the target, it seems like.
I don't understand it either. I was really surprised the other night when nobody really spoke up in support of C.J. Davis. And as I listened to it and read the article the next day, Frank Colvett actually said on day 1 she would be gone. That's what I understand. That's not a vote of confidence at all from any of those candidates. Now, I don't know where the others who were not there, where they stand on C.J. Davis. They're going to have to say. But to Deidre's point, there are other people around the country who like C.J. Davis. She got a real great review for how she handled the Tyree Nichols case, even from the lawyers for the Nichols
Attorney
family,
Ben Crump,
right?
absolutely.
Ben Crump, absolutely. So I would not be surprised if she's already looking around to see what her next move would be, because I know I would if I'm looking at candidates and nobody is saying any kind of emphatic way that I'm supportive of her, I think she should remain here. I'd be looking.
And it takes time with anything. I mean, this crime didn't just increase overnight. So it takes time for anybody to put a strategy in place to alleviate it. And I don't think she's had enough time.
Yeah.
She's only been on the job a year and a half,
A year and a
little over
half.
that.
Right.
What is she supposed to do? Just totally wholesale change in the department,
Exactly.
fire everybody in that period of time? And I don't know. The one thing she did do, though, shortly after she took office is like, we got to change this notion that we're going to hire officers that have a blemish on their record. There's this process, you go through a hearing in Nashville to get approval to do that. But until a year and a half ago, we were hiring officers who got in trouble for their duties or not performing their duties as they should in other departments, and we'd hire them just because we were so desperate for recruits.
Right.
So I don't know. We'll see where that goes, but I'm with you. Hearing the talk from these candidates who would be mayor, I might be looking now too. One other thing that also came up this week was this whole issue of the residency requirement. The state charter says that a candidate must live in Memphis 5 years prior to the election, and that's an issue this year because 3 of the top candidates, I think we have their pictures, did not live in Memphis within the past 5 years. Floyd Bonner, one of the front runners, I think most people would agree. The sheriff just moved to Memphis from Bartlett. Willie Harrington, we believe, had a home in Memphis but lived in Collierville during the past 5 years, the former mayor, and the former county commissioner and now NAACP head Van Turner, also recently moving into Memphis after living in unincorporated southeast Shelby County. So now we've got lawyers involved, which is always fun. And I think we have a hearing next week that is going to start to resolve this. The city attorney, Jennifer Sink, is going to be one of those who's going to be giving testimony. How do you think this all shakes out? Deidre, I'll start with you on this.
Well, I think they have a very fair chancellor in Jode Jenkins. It's going before his court, and so he's shown to be, in cases involving like the election commission and in other cases, to be very fair. So it'll be interesting to see what really happens. I kind of think that the residency issue is not going to stand, and that that Sheriff Bonner, President Turner, and former Mayor Harrington will be allowed to stay in this mayor's race.
You agree with that?
That's what I think.
I don't know. But what I do know is that I'm really hoping that Jennifer Sink, when she speaks out in court, says emphatically what the legal people at City Hall believe is the prevailing city charter rule here.
You've been critical of the city administration and the city as a whole for just not taking more
They just haven't said anything. I mean, it's my understanding that they asked for both of these legal opinions, one from Robert Myers and the other one from Alan Wade, and then they were conflicting opinions.
They were.
Myers said the 5 years is still in force. Alan Wade says no, it's not, based on that 1996 referendum vote, which really was focusing on creating those super districts more than anything else.
Absolutely.
But at the very end, there was language there that Alan Wade says got rid of the 5 years. That's what Jode Jenkins is going to have to decide here. But we need to hear what the city's position actually is. And I haven't heard that yet, and yeah, I've been critical because of that.
One thing the city council did do is say, once we get through this election, we want to put it up for a vote and let Memphians decide if we should have a 2-year. They are proposing a 2-year minimum that a candidate has to live in the city in order to run. Do we agree with that? Do we think that's a good idea?
I do. I think it is a very wise decision by the city council to do it. 2 years is definitely not asking too much. Probably could have been 3 and I would have been happy with, but certainly 2 years. If you haven't lived here in 2 years, don't even think about running for mayor. That's the way I see it.
I think it's fair too, and I think, you know, anybody that's going to do their due diligence is going to go back and see where they moved from and see what type of citizen they were there too. But yeah, I think 2 years is fair.
Oh yeah,
All right.
I agree.
Well, hopefully, before we elect a new mayor, we will have a new Memphis Shelby County School superintendent. Would you care to place a wager on whether that'll happen or not?
I'm not betting that.
We're going to tackle that issue when we come right back.